Hello and welcome. My name is Vikram Chandra and you're watching This World, a show that breaks down the week's biggest stories for you. This week we are talking about former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan's mounting troubles, with polls in the country fast approaching and 2 prison sentences weighing heavily on the cricketer turned politician. What's next for Pakistan? What's next for Imran Khan? And what does all of this say about Pakistani democracy? Nothing too good. We're also going to move from Pakistan over to West Asia, where the situation is reaching a boiling point with an attack on an American base in Jordan, leaving 3 soldiers dead. We're going to be covering that with the help of an expert. We also take a look at Malaysia, where a new king was sworn in this week. Who is Sultan Ibrahim Iskandar, and what is the system of rotational monarchy that Malaysia seems to have? We're going to be telling you more about that. But let's start with Pakistan, and this week may have spelled the end of Imran Khan's political career. But knowing Pakistan, never say never. You've had people being sentenced to prison and then coming back and becoming Prime Minister all over again. So anything is possible. But as of now, it looks as if Imran Khan's political career could be over. The former Prime Minister of Pakistan received 2 sentences, one imprisoning him for a decade, and a second sentence awarding him 14 years in prison. Now, what are these cases that Imran Khan is being punished for? What do these sentences mean for the cricketer turned politician? And what about Pakistan? What happens when the candidate leading the opinion polls is barred from running for office because he's been sent to jail, and he is already in jail? Now, let's answer all of those questions for you one by one, starting with a recap of the week. On Tuesday, Imran Khan was sentenced to 10 years in prison. What for? Well, Khan essentially in this case was convicted for leaking classified state documents during his time as Pakistan's Prime Minister. And this was between 2018 and 2022. The sentence was handed to him in jail. Remember, Imran Khan's already in prison. He was arrested in August. He's currently in Rawalpindi's Adiala jail, and he's serving a 3-year jail term for corruption. Now, Khan was not the only one who received a sentence in the classified file case. A 10-year prison time was also handed on Shah Mahmood Qureshi. He served as Pakistan's foreign minister under Khan. Qureshi is also the vice president of Imran Khan's political party, the PTI, or the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Now remember, all of this is happening in the lead up to Pakistan's parliamentary election. And if you think that it's a pure coincidence, well, you might need to rethink your naivete just a little bit. Remember, the country is expected to go to the polls on the 8th of February, just a few days away. And just short of that, all of these jail sentences are being handed to Imran Khan. And remember, who are the opinion polls favouring? The opinion polls are favouring Imran Khan. He has a clear lead over the other potential prime ministerial faces, be it 3-time former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, his brother, and former Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, or the Bhutto scion, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. If Khan was to contest, it may have essentially become Khan versus Sharif. If you're looking at approval ratings, Imran Khan has a positive approval rating, 57%. Nawaz Sharif is 52% approval rating. There's no doubt that Khan could be Pakistan's most popular leader in a free and fair election, but frankly, returning to office right now is a distant dream for the former skipper, both of the Pakistani cricket team and of Pakistan, because he is not contesting the polls. Rather, he is not being allowed to. In December, Pakistan's election body rejected Khan's nomination papers. The Election Commission of Pakistan barred Khan from politics for 5 years. That was following his conviction in those corruption cases. This week, that ban was extended. A court in Pakistan barred Imran Khan from holding public office for 10 years. And that brings us to the second sentencing. On Wednesday, Imran Khan was handed 14 fresh years in prison. The same sentence was also handed to Khan's wife, Bushra Bibi. The two got married in 2018. That was months before Khan was elected as Pakistan's Prime Minister. The couple is now convicted of illegally profiting from state gifts. These are state gifts that Khan and his wife received while in office. This includes a jewelry set gifted by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, and that's what the second sentencing is essentially about. He's also been banned from holding public office for 10 years. Now, neither Imran Khan nor Bushra Bibi were in the courtroom when the sentences were handed down. Their legal team too was not present. This is Khan's lawyer, Shoaib Shaheen, describing what happened.
Our leader, Mr. Imran Khan, has been convicted, which is on the face of it illegal. It is violation of the human rights. A person, a prosecutor, has been appointed as a counsel and advocate on behalf of Mr. Imran Khan. No opportunity to defend himself was given. In jail, outside of the jail premises, our advocates were standing and they were waiting that we should be heard, we should be given an opportunity of hearing. No opportunity was given. It was in jail when a conviction was announced, and the judge was also in confinement practically. So it is under the pressure, and I think we condemn it.
Now look, if you're thinking there's a political motive behind those sentencings, well, you know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to try and figure that out. Just look at that extent. 14 years in a corruption case. That's the sort of a sentence that's often handed down for murder in this part of the world, but 14 years there in that particular corruption case. Now, the key question, of course, is what will Imran Khan do next? His lawyers say that Khan will appeal to Pakistan's High Court, and the other big question that I guess he's going to have to address is whether the two sentences run concurrently. Ideally, they're supposed to. That means 14 years includes the 10 years within it. But hey, this is a political matter. Who knows? What if they say it's 10 years followed by 14 years, which means 24 years in prison for Imran Khan? Now, what's going to actually happen out here, we don't really know, and I suspect neither does Imran Khan. Now, the next big question is, what do the two sentences mean for the PTI? Now, one is obvious, the leader does not get to contest those polls. But number two, there is a decent chance or a good chance that these sentences could galvanize Khan supporters, fan their anger over the sentencing, and that anger could perhaps mean more votes for the PTI. Following Tuesday's sentencing, Imran Khan put out this statement on X. He said, and I quote, "Take revenge for every injustice with your vote on February 8, while remaining peaceful." But there is another possibility. With Khan in no position to return to office and with the party's Vice President Shah Mahmood Qureshi behind bars as well, there are chances that some voters may see no point in voting for the PTI because the fact on the ground is many of their leaders have already defected. They've quit. They're seeing Khan in so much trouble and they're leaving. Some of them are standing as independents. PTI is complaining about a crackdown.
We are not being given an opportunity to have a campaign, which is our fundamental right. I have approached the Election Commission of Pakistan, but no action has been taken. And you see here, there was a worker convention. You see the police. We are not allowed to enter in the premises. So it is on the face of it, illegal, unlawful, violation of the fundamental rights, violation of the basic democratic norms, violation of the constitution, violation of the code of conduct. So we condemned all these actions taken by the administration, by the police, as well as by the Election Commission of Pakistan.
Now, of course, the big question also that many would be asking is what does that mean, not just for the elections, but also for the concept of Pakistani democracy? Its credibility has been rather low from the very beginning. Its credibility now has come under an even bigger question. Long story short, as Pakistan heads to the polls, Imran Khan's political career may have essentially been finished, but there are many who will say that this is what happens when you go after the army in Pakistan. They do not spare you. Imran Khan, of course, did not just stop by going after the army. He also went after the United States, accusing Washington of plotting to oust him. So is Imran Khan being punished for taking on the establishment? Well, it's hard to look at the story in any other light. That's frankly the way it's coming across. You take on the establishment in Pakistan, which essentially means the army, and there are some who would say add the Americans to that, but that link is less clear than it once used to be. But you take on the army, this is what happens to you. Not necessarily the best of news for Pakistani democracy, which, as I was saying, was never particularly strong to start with. And on that note, let's move to West Asia once again, which remained in the news all week, as it has for quite some time. And it's not only for the Gaza war, but also for the expanded war that seems to be building up in the entire region. This week, the rules of engagement were changed when an enemy drone hit a remote base in the Jordan. 3 American soldiers died.
Last night in the Middle East, we lost 3 brave souls in an attack on one of our bases.
Yes.
And I'd ask you for a moment of silence for all 3 of those fallen soldiers.
Jesus.
So let me quickly explain. What were American soldiers doing in Jordan in the first place, and who killed them? Also, what is the response that Biden was talking about there? Let's start with a map of Jordan. This is Tower 22. It's a military outpost, and as you can see, it's very close to Jordan's borders with Iraq and with Syria. Some 350 American Army and Air Force commandos are stationed in this base. There's very little information about what these troops are tasked with, what kind of weapon systems they have, what they actually do. But the popular word is that these American troops are helping to fight ISIS. Tower 22 also serves as a supply hub for the U.S. garrison of Al-Tanf. This is just across the border in Syria. American troops came under attack on the morning of the 29th of January. An enemy drone hit the army barracks. The obvious question is, what was the base's defense system doing? Why didn't it prevent the drone attack from happening? Reports say that the defense system's auto response feature was switched off at that time. Why was that? But it turns out at the time that the enemy drone was approaching the base, an American drone was also returning to the base from a mission. So the defense system's auto response was switched off to avoid the American drone from being shot down. Now, why didn't the radar systems detect the incoming enemy drone? Reports say that the drone was flying very low and very slow. That way, it avoided detection. Reports say that at one point, the enemy drone began following the American drone. Whether on purpose or whether it's a coincidence is not clear, but it followed the American drone in. American soldiers still don't know what exactly happened, but the Wall Street Journal reported earlier this week that there was some confusion in Tower 22 in the minutes leading to the attack. Troops couldn't tell whether the incoming drone was hostile or not. But what happened next was clear. The drone struck the barracks. 3 American soldiers died, at least 40 others were injured. 8 of them had to be flown out of Jordan for medical treatment. Now, this was the first time since the October 7 Hamas attack that American soldiers were killed by enemies in West Asia. There have been at least 150 attacks on American assets since the war in Gaza broke out, but there were no casualties in these attacks. What happened this week changed the rules of engagement. So, who carried out the attack? The Islamic resistance in Iraq has been claiming responsibility. It is an umbrella organization of Iran-backed militia groups. America says it holds Iran responsible. Listen to the American President, Joe Biden.
Mr. President, what? Yes.
What do you hold Iran responsible for the death of those 3 Americans?
I do hold them responsible in the sense that they're supplying the weapons to the people who did it.
Now, listen to how Iran responded to that comment.
The common chapter between you and us, that is Iran and the US, is that we know each other. You know that we do not leave any threats unanswered. While we are not looking for war, we are not afraid of war, and we do not run away from it.
So ever since the news of the attack broke, American leadership has been talking about a response. On Monday, in a post on X, Biden said America will respond at a time of its choosing. On Wednesday, Biden said he had decided how to respond to the attack.
I don't think we need a wider war in the Middle East. That's not what I'm looking for.
But let's now turn to that big question, the question that analysts are asking. How much can America really afford to flex its muscles in West Asia right now without triggering a wider conflict? And let's also put this entire question now on a geopolitical map. Let's understand what's happening. All of this is happening in Jordan and Iraq and Syria, and America saying, what is Iran doing? And we're going to take action against the people who are responsible for this. America's also been saying that about the Houthis in Yemen, which is just a little bit further to the south. All of this in the context of a possible escalation of the conflict that is already happening between Israel and Hamas. That is Israel and Hamas. That's the Gaza Strip out there. Remember, there's war taking place between Russia and Ukraine further up the map. Could that escalate? Is that heading for some sort of a conclusion or not? And then the big elephant in the room, or the dragon in the room, if you like. So many people actually expect conflict and hostilities to break out over Taiwan. The South China Seas, they are already on fire. And there's the very real possibility that there could be conflict that is going to break out over Taiwan at some point. Could be this year, could be 5 years from now, could be 10 years from now, who knows? But that is something that could happen. And for more on this, we're now being joined by Dr. Malcolm Davis, Senior Analyst in Defence Strategy and Capability at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Thanks so much, Dr. Davis, for being with us. Do shed light for us on what actually is happening in West Asia, because it seems to be lots of moving parts, and the possibility of escalation, I guess, is what all of us keep worrying about. What do you see happening there?
Well, clearly everyone is waiting to see how the US responds to this attack last Sunday on the US base in Jordan, which killed 3 US service people and wounded over 40. So I think we'll probably see some sort of military response across the course of this weekend. I think the US is talking about a multi-tiered ongoing response against a range of targets in Iraq and Syria. They don't intend to hit inside Iran, from what all the indications are, but certainly they will be going after what's the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps that is within Iraq and Syria, as well as the militias that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps sponsor.
Dr. Davis, I have to ask, obviously if you're not putting boots on the ground, these strikes can continue. You can go on firing cruise missiles and go on having airstrikes till you're blue in the face. But as we are seeing with the Houthis in Yemen, it doesn't actually prevent anything. It doesn't seem to deter too many people. It's not very clear what you're actually hitting. So whatever the response is, I'm sure those are some of the concerns that the Americans will have. What are we actually hitting?
Exactly. I think that the US really has to struggle to essentially establish credible deterrence against Iran. And at the moment, that's not happening. As you quickly point out, with Operation Poseidon Archer against the Houthis, the US is striking Houthi forces that are launching missiles on an ongoing basis. And so far, those US strikes aren't really stopping those Houthi attacks. The same might be said in the upcoming attacks on the Iraqi and Syrian militias that are sponsored by Iran. Unless the US is prepared to go all in and launch decisive, overwhelming strikes, including against Iranian targets, I suspect what will happen is that the US will do damage limitation, essentially reduce the ability of these militias to attack the US in the future, but it won't necessarily stop future strikes from occurring. And the question is, how quickly can those militias recover with the assistance of Iran?
Thank you so much, Dr. Davis, for joining us. Such a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to other subjects, this week a new king was sworn in Malaysia. Now, I don't know how many of you know this, but Malaysia has a rotational monarchy system. It's quite interesting. There are 9 royal families in the country, and the heads of these royal families take turns to be king. In Malaysia, the king is known as the Yang di Pertuan Agong. It translates to he who is made Lord. Every 5 years, Malaysia swears in a new king. On the 31st of January, Sultan Ibrahim Sultan Iskandar of Johor was sworn in.
Sultan Ibrahim ibni almarhum Sultan Iskandar.
Maka dengan lafaz ini
Therefore, with this oath, we truthfully and honestly swear that we will abide by executing the governing of Malaysia in fairness, by following the laws and governance that has been legitimized and publicized from this moment on. We also swear, truthfully and honestly, that we will always keep the religion of Islam above the governance that is fair and safe within this nation.
dan yang akan kisah.
So who really is Sultan Ibrahim? He's from the southern state of Johor. Sultan Ibrahim is 65 years old and he's one of Malaysia's richest men. Bloomberg estimates that the Sultan's family assets are worth at least $5.7 billion. But his empire reaches beyond that. The Sultan's business interests range from mining to telecommunications to real estate and to palm oil. The Sultan drives a Ferrari and also owns a collection of 300 luxury cars. One of those cars, incidentally, was a gift by Adolf Hitler to his great-grandfather. The two apparently were friends. The Sultan lives in the sprawling Istana Bukit Serene. Close to the palaces is an airport showcasing the Sultan's fleet of private jets. He owns at least 3 Gulfstreams and a Boeing 737. Of course, all this wealth has been inherited over generations. The Johor Sultanate traces a lineage going back to the 16th century. Sultan Ibrahim is Instagram savvy. He has nearly 1 million followers and is pretty popular among the residents of Johor. You see, kings in Malaysia have a mostly ceremonial role. But Sultan Ibrahim is expected to have more influence on domestic and foreign policy than any previous king. And why is that? Well, number one, this Sultan is not afraid to voice his opinion. He speaks on issues that are traditionally reserved for politicians. And number two, Sultan Ibrahim is extremely well connected. He's close to the leadership of Singapore. He has Chinese business partners. And also, number three, even before swearing in, King Sultan has told a newspaper that the state's oil and gas company should report to the king and not to the elected Prime Minister. He also called for a revival of a high-speed rail line between Singapore and Kuala Lumpur. The Sultan also said he does not want to waste his 5 years on the throne as a puppet king and that he will focus on fighting corruption and deepening unity in Malaysia. So, interesting times, an interesting new king, a revolving monarchy, and let's see how this all plays out in both the domestic and the foreign policy in Malaysia. And that's our show for this week. We will see you again next week with a fresh lineup of stories from around this world. My name is Vikram Chandra and you're watching This World on WION World is One.